The once acting director of the Secret Service is finally no longer on the job. This person I wasn't impressed with at all. Let's face it, we all know what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Well, he was one of the top guys there. I thought this has been handled already. In fact, we were notified, a big headline a couple of months ago, that he was getting out. It was like, come on, you're not going to stick around under Trump after that happened, right? But especially how deceptive he was. Yes, he was deceptive during those congressional hearings and the press conference and media interviews. February 11, 2025. Turns out his actual departure was Friday. Yeah, that's how it works in the government. He remained technically a senior advisor for 4 months, got all that pay, back pay, vacation, all that stuff, right? I mean, some of that I know has to be done, but 4 months, 3 months, that's a long time, and no accountability, especially after, well, I kept hearing from him there was going to be accountability, but he always framed it in that bureaucratic way that bureaucrats frame things.
Given the magnitude of this failure, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is reviewing the actions and decision-making of Secret Service personnel in the lead-up to and on the day of the attack. If this investigation reveals that Secret Service employees violated agency protocols, those employees will be held accountable to our disciplinary process.
You see, if anybody violated policy procedures, it's another bureaucratic trick, right? Well, if you look at the policies closely enough, maybe we can work it so nobody actually, it was just, we need new policies. Oh, nobody broke policy, we just need new ones. And then there was this. This is not a guy who talks like somebody who really wanted accountability for what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania in July.
As I've said, this was a failure on the part of the United States Secret Service. It's important that we hold ourselves accountable for the failures of July 13th, and that we use the lessons learned to make sure that we do not have another failure like this again. The findings of the Mission Assurance Review have prompted the Secret Service to move into the accountability phase of this process.
The findings of the Mission Assurance Review has prompted the Secret Service to go into the accountability phase. Well, there's been no accountability. From what I understand, those who screwed up have lawyered up and they haven't actually been penalized. He is finally gone. How did he survive not only the past couple of months in that phase, but a career in government? This way, bureaucratic, fast talker, right? Use phrases like Mission Assurance Review, all right, instead of talking about, I don't know, an investigation or a probe, a Mission Assurance Review. And if anybody questions you too hard, just get really mad and yell at people, right? The indignation. Yeah, that was another little trick. These things do not fly in the private sector. And sometimes I don't know, sometimes I think they can give guys a break in the private sector, but no, it's not tolerated. Anybody like basketball? You heard about the New York Knicks, and they're on fire this season, but they didn't go all the way. For the first time in like 20 years, they had a great season. They fired the coach. Like the day after, they just fired the guy. And by all accounts, he did a pretty good job, but who knows, office politics, that kind of thing. And he rubbed somebody the wrong way. That's the way it goes in the private sector. You don't get to survive when you fail at that level. And, well, that's what happens when you're protecting the most important man in the world. And these guys, Rowe and Abate, is that their names? I saw both of these guys, especially Abate, try to deceive U.S. senators, and it was disgraceful. And there hasn't been accountability. We had a president who almost got killed on July 13th, and again, a couple of months later. And believe me, with the rhetoric the way it is, and with people not remembering things, it can happen again. Oh boy, can it happen again. Especially when George Stephanopoulos is sounding off as loud as he can.
This unprecedented money-making by a sitting president and his family, summarized by critics like The Atlantic's David Frum. Nothing like this has been attempted or even imagined in the history of the American presidency, he writes. Throw away the history books, discard feeble comparisons to scandals of the past. There is no analogy with any previous action by any past president. The brazenness of the self-enrichment resembles nothing seen in any earlier White House. This is American corruption on the scale of a post-Soviet republic or a post-colonial African dictatorship.
The intensity of these words is on par what they were saying during the campaign, and this is dangerous stuff. They're actually calling on the deep state again to do something potentially horrific to President Trump. And he doesn't know what he's talking about, neither George nor this David Frum character. David Frum, you know who he is? He got famous because he wrote words for George W. Bush. Here he is when he was a lot younger with George W. Bush. And he was most famous for writing some of the most aggressive rhetoric to justify, promote, and execute the war in Iraq. Here is literally a page from David Frum's scrapbook.
America must not ignore the threat gathering against us. Facing clear evidence of peril, we cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
Wow. All right. No choice. Got to invade, right? So I'm curious what Frum did next. After no weapons of mass destruction, here's David Frum and W kind of huddling in the White House one more time. And did that guy help him with this speech?
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
Not funny. I was in the room, by the way. I realized, man, I do not fit in here. Wonder if these guys found it funny. David Frum wrote those words to get President Bush out of a jam, huh? And you have the nerve, Frum, to accuse Donald Trump of corruption? Nothing that Donald Trump is doing is unconstitutional, illegal, or even remotely unethical, all right? And I think I can prove it. Next, please. Yes, President Trump has embraced crypto. Crypto seems to be here to stay. There are a lot of smart people who love crypto. You're allowed to donate money to a campaign when something as big as crypto and say, you know what, we want some regulation that allows for this stuff. It's kind of on fire right now. As I said, there are very smart people who love it. Why not? What is unethical? And it's all in front of everybody's faces. Donald Trump Jr. is big into crypto. He doesn't hide it. He doesn't sulk around like Hunter Biden or James Biden or whatever those guys did. Eric Trump is into crypto. And everything is above board. Literally, it has to be. And the administration, you know, look, I do not yet totally get crypto, but I want to.
Will we lead our nation into a future of financial sovereignty, of innovation, and of prosperity, or will we let unelected bureaucrats and foreign competitors write the rules for us? And I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House.
All right, so crypto is here to stay. Democrats and Republicans like it. President Trump promoting crypto is like President Trump promoting the U.S. dollar, the economy. It is totally above board. It is totally legitimate. And that his sons should be involved in the hottest kind of economic thing going on right now. Well, they're international businessmen for pushing 30 years right now. They have skill. Everybody knows it. 10 years before their father ran for president, these guys were doing international business deals. What was Hunter doing, right? Before his dad, or we know about Hunter, right? We know about Hunter. So anyway, when David Frum and the Swamp, they say things like that, it's ugly, it's wrong, and it's possibly, again, trying to justify the worst possible thing happening to President Trump. And he's got to be careful, right? I pray for his safety. Next, please.
Information. Truth. is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.